Hello and welcome to Guy Logic. My name is Temco and today we are taking a look at a game called Forced Showdown. It is developed by BetaDwarf, the guys that brought us Forced about 2 years ago, with that amazing story that they're being kicked out of college because they were hijacking a classroom to use as both a living space and a workspace, and then they rented a shitty apartment somewhere in the middle of nowhere. They got a Kickstarter, they even got a loan, they did their dream, they released Forced. And now it's 2 years later and they're back with Forced Showdown. Forced was received more or less with decent marks. It had 75% on Steam according to reviews, and the main criticisms of the game were the difficulty and bugs. So now we're here with a new title from them, Forced Showdown, which takes their 4-player co-op battle arena in a new dimension, making it a deck building battle arena with quite a few nice and interesting things. The question we're going to answer is the game any good? Well, let's get into that, shall we? Let's get into seeing if the game is any good and if these guys that have this amazing story for starting up their studio can keep on delivering. First, our options. If you do not want to hear and see me talk about options for the next 5 or so minutes, I suggest you press the annotation that's appeared somewhere on screen and skip straight ahead to the gameplay section. For the rest of us, let's go into some options. Audio-wise, there are 4 sliders, master volume as well as voice, music, SFX, and you can disable footsteps. There is some dialogue in this game, but that is mostly covered by sound effects and voices, not so much by actual dialogue options. These are small snippets of the narrator or announcer saying something. Visuals. The base visuals have full screen on or off, screen shaking, blood and gore. You can turn these on or off. It has a pretty nice amount of resolution options in a drop down, as we like to see, and it has an advanced tab that shows you textures, dynamic lights, shadows, bunch of other stuff like AA, which is FXA, a bit of a shame, but we can live with that, to Bloom, to vignettes, to everything else, and even has world details. So I don't like is that they've contained this to this little box, and regardless of how much information they add on the screen, like they have like 6 drop downs here and 4 here, these are definitely bigger than these. That's a bit inconsistent, I don't like that, but everything else looks pretty cool. And you can basically change these if your performance is bad. Personally, I have had 0 issues with performance. I have had some bugs occur, a couple of crash bugs and stuff, so let's hope they fix those before the official release date. But overall, the game runs over 60 at all times. I've never dropped below 60 on my GTX 780, so that is a very good thing. You can also change key bindings, and I'm not sure if it has control support. I do not use a controller, it's not even plugged in, but some other reviewer will be able to answer that to you. But keyboard and mouse controls work fine and absolutely amazing for the game, and you can rebind them as well, so that is pretty good. Also, the game has Twitch integration, which I'm not going to click because it shows my my Twitch information, so you can stream the game directly onto Twitch, and that is pretty good. They even have an event going on for launch where they highlight certain streams, so that is pretty cool. Overall, the options menu is pretty nice. There's no glaring drawbacks except for, as I always say, colorblind mode and the option for borderless windowed. I'm gonna keep touting these until some developers add them. The game is a sort of isometric, so we don't really need all these options we see here, but I'm very happy they've included them. Okay, gameplay is split up in 2 parts. First, you have the solo programs, which I completed one, I have been failing on the other repeatedly, and then you have the third one which you unlock through quests. The second part is seasons. Seasons are either daily, one-try dailies, and different rule sets for dailies. And these last 24 hours, and you can compete in them and rank up and get scores compared to other people. This is going to be the replayability of the game based on this score system, and you doing dailies will gonna make you either customize decks or force you to try something out of your comfort zone. For example, current daily I'm looking at now, you get a team deck that is all puffs, and puffs is a creature type, and you don't actually use your own deck. This is a pretty brutal game mode, so from there you go on, and you try these different game modes, and you customize these things daily basis. So yeah, there's a lot of replayability to see how you get on top of the scoreboard. I like this system. Next up is the card building. Deck building is done much like Hearthstone, in that you select the kind of cards you want to do, you select the champion you want to build a deck for, and then you start building a deck by adding cards to it. So if I'm going to make a new deck for the Squire of Light, I select new deck, and you can have up to 5 decks per champion, and I start adding cards. Now there's cards for just a Square of Light, such as Overcharge, and Fusion Power, and Eternal Energy, and each champion has a couple of these cards. There's also neutral cards that are available for all champions. Again, very much like Hearthstone does it with its classes. So let's say I want to build a bunch of cards for level 0. I want to get 2 mana extra, and I want to make sure I have the Cosmic Cleaver, which is a 7 card. I'm going to get Legendary Awareness, 2 of those. We are going to get some crit damage, and we're going to add the increased blood flow health. So we have a very top-heavy deck right now. You can also rename the decks. I'm going to name this one Test 3. That seems reasonable. And you build up a deck of 30 cards. Once you have a deck built up, you can use it to play. This doesn't mean you can always use the deck. Like I said earlier, certain challenges, certain seasonal items that are dailies may have restrictions that require you to use a pre-built deck that they decide on. And certain bosses influence decks in certain ways. It is very important to build a deck and to adjust that deck based on you unlocked cards and things like that. Now, of course, every champion has their own set of unique cards, and you can build 5 decks for each one, as I said earlier. So that is deck building in a nutshell. Unlike Hearthstone, the game has 7 levels instead of 10, so all cards are limited to maximum of 7 energy because there's only 8 rounds, starting at 0, ending at a maximum of 8 mana. Okay, that is deck building in a nutshell. There's a bunch of cards. They do a variety of things, ranging from boosting your health to boosting your critical chance. They have passives, they have usables, they have active components. If we take a look at all cards and we say consumables, you'll see I have summons that do damage, movement speed, destroying all minions, the nuke, etc. If we look at spells, there are spells to give increased mana, to draw cards, to heal, and upgrades range from passives to heal you, activatables to abilities to increase health per damage, to do procs, to do things like that. There's quite a big variety of different cards. It is a very well fleshed out card system. Now obviously I hope they add more and more cards to the game as time progresses, but so for now, for these 4 champions, there is a nice variety of cards, and mixing and matching abilities, you can create unique decks and thus unique game runs in. Okay, so that is deck building, but how do you get cards? Well, there's 2 ways to get cards, and I'm gonna show them now. One, you start with a bunch of cards once you start the game, obviously. The second way is earning gold. You earn gold by completing seasons and playing the game in general. This gold is unlocked when you complete a match, arena, or a game mode. It's also unlocked in-game when you kill a randomly spawning sort of card carrier that has gold. You use gold to spin. Once you spin, you unlock cards. These can be common, uncommon, and supreme, or as they call them, common, rare, and supreme. And you can also get gold and the like from there. In the bottom, you'll see how many cards you have. I have 16% of commons, 4% of rares, and 2.5% of the supremes. Let's say I get a card I already have 2 of. This is not going to be that card. You get a card, and let's say you have 2 of those cards. Then that card will be destroyed, and you will get shards for that card. You can have up to 1,000 shards. If you feel you don't have a certain card, you want to try to get those last couple of cards, and you don't want to try your luck on the spinning wheel, you will regardless. You can use shards. That will unlock a card you do not yet have for certain. So let's say you are certain you have like 500 shards and you want to unlock certain supremes. You can keep spinning the wheel, hoping you land on these supremes. Or you can save up these shards from things that you have destroyed because you unlock cards. You have more than 2 of them, so they get destroyed, and then you unlock a supreme card this way. More expensive, yes, but eventually you will unlock all cards. So that is pretty good. I'm not sure how the developer plans on updating this. Obviously, it is sort of a card game, but it is a deck builder and not Hearthstone. So there's no competitive aspect to it outside of running with the seasons and doing the dailies. Okay, that is all about how you build a deck, what is in a deck, and how you get cards, right? Let's get into some actual gameplay, shall we? Let's press frontline. Select our hero. I'm gonna go with the Squire of Light, who has a couple of abilities. I haven't unlocked the 4th one yet, by the way. You have a couple of them. This one is a archer that does lightning damage and dots. This one is a melee that does a bunch of knockbacks. And this is Squire of Light that does a beam attack. and a knockback and a self-shield. We have 2 companions as well. We have Showdown, which is a very weak but a very high damage companion, and we have Brutus, which is a melee champion that does lifesteal, which is pretty good. We're going to use our secondary deck. We changed some things around in that deck, and we are going to start this run. The run loads in, and it loads you into a selection area. Let's skip right ahead here. It loads you into the selection area. When you first start, you're going to have to go to the tutorial before you get through this door. And that is pretty important because that explains most of the basic mechanics of the game. Then you get to the first segment. Now, let me explain a couple of things on screen here before we continue. And there is my first criticism as well for the title. On this screen, in the bottom, you have points. You get these points by completing things in the game. You have to unlock 2 of these to unlock the boss before it lets you progress to the next area. But as you can see, when I stand on this, it says battle rules, supplies, chaotic illumination, battle rules, side effects, spells, battle rules, copy machine, battle rules, chain reaction, and rebel whirly rats. The problem is, these battle rules are not explained before you load into a game. So if you are new to the game, or you just are shit with names like me, you will end up going into a game mode, which is a modifier of a specific arena, not knowing what the modifiers are, and you may end up dying because you were not aware what was going on. So you have to memorize all of these before you can make an informed decision to dive into the various game modes. There's no way to look them up and see what they do, which is, I think, a oversight that, while it is RNG, it is controlled RNG, you know it beforehand. That takes away the control quite a bit until you memorize all these options, so I don't really like that. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and dive into a game mode. You stand on this. It loads you in, and it tells me I am the Squire of Light and Brutus. I am facing the Captain, which is a boss. I am doing so with the modifier that I will start with a chaotic illumination card played, and that results in more enemies being added to the opposing side. We press fight, and the game tells us select your mana. I don't need to actually. If I keep both mana boosts, I can get Cosmic Cleaver, which adds 45% damage for me later. I'm gonna remove Bomb Drone though. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. It'll make my start a lot slower, but once I get to level 5 out of the 7 arenas, I will get Cosmic Cleaver, which will increase my damage quite a bit on a very early moment. So, the game is about killing these mobs. And you do so by fighting in an arena. Once you've selected and played cards, the arena starts. Each level you have 1 mana, and the next level you get 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. Pretty much the way Hearthstone does it. Except the game doesn't end at 10 mana, it ends at 8 mana. Once you kill all enemies in an arena, the arena ends and you will have been successful. You go to the second stage. The second stage then lets you add 1 more mana. And you draw an additional card. So now I have 2 mana, I still can't do anything with it. This is the Captain. And each arena has a modifier as well. Now outside of the modifier with a card being added, in this case Chaotic Elimination, this means that the enemy will do a Mind Shower. There is variants where the enemy will throw meteorites at you. There is one where a Burning Sword will randomly appear and run around the map. There's a couple of variants on this modifier. And based on the boss, this modifier changes. On top of this, in this game mode, the boss has access to cards, and these cards are played every round, much like your cards can be played every round. And now this one says that the mines he drops are now crawling, which means they move, which is pretty OP, I think. So, we can't play cards, we're going to click here and start the next arena. Because we're stuck in here, we're going to have to destroy a couple of these boxes to get out. And do our abilities and kill a bunch of mobs. Now, as you can see, Squire of Light has a couple of abilities, and each champion has his own or her own abilities, I should say. The Squire of Light does this beam attack that explodes until later on. You can see it here. He also has an ability that is on my right mouse button that explodes around him, knocks enemies back, and he has an E, which is an invulnerability shield that lasts for 2 seconds. Now, obviously, you can modify all of these using cards to get longer range, better damage, more duration, more knockback, etc, etc. I'm going to use my shock helmet on level 3. There we go. Because I play this card, I will now get the rest of this round, which is going to be a couple of more turns until the boss fight. I will get an additional 30% chance to cast Shock Nova. Enemy has also played a card. And this one is when an enemy is killed, the others are healed. Which, in turn of this champion, because I'm so single target focused, is actually not that horrible. It's not great, obviously, but it's not horrible. The other champion, the melee champion, would have a very hard time of this because he does a lot of AoE damage. Okay, because we can't really play anything else and we do not want to use our heal, I'm gonna start the round. And let's go. Some of these areas are segmented, some are not. It really depends on the level design. And the levels have a pretty interesting design overall. One thing I will say for the levels is that it's very repetitive. And I mean that in a not negative way, because part of the game's strength is having you learn an arena, having you learn enemy types, and having you make decks to fight those enemy types. But between various enemy types, there is very little variation. And these are all mechanical enemies and constructs. A different variant with undead is going to have the same mob types. They will still have a charger, they will still have an exploding dude, they will still have a dude that throws something and that does AoE damage. So there is, the actual enemy variety is pretty limited. But thankfully, because of the variations in the various cards, and the various game modes, and the various modifiers the bosses implement, they don't feel limited because you can have to take care of them on top of their various extras they get from the boss fight. I'm not even sure what this is. Let's destroy it real fast. Good. So there is that. So yes, the game has a very limited number of mobs, but it don't feel limited because of the modifiers that keep it fresh and interesting every single time. And this may change when you have 50-60 hours into the game. But right now I'm at about 10 hours in game time. And I still haven't gotten bored of the various modifiers. I still have to sit and think and go, this is a pretty cool way to do it. So there's that. Let's see. We are now at turn 5. Let's add our 2 mana and add Cosmic Cleaver. Boom. There we go. Cool. And you'll see I'll do a bunch more extra damage right now. One more thing the Squire of Light does, which is pretty interesting, is that he does, when he does his beam attack on enemies, he knocks them back a little bit. Now there's also a modifier in the game that is called Magnetic Pull, which pulls enemies to you once you hit them. And for the ranged champion, that is not an issue. He's far away from them and it doesn't really matter for him. But for the Squire of Light, who's dependent on single target and dependent on killing enemies before they, get to him, the magnetic pull is a big problem. So we want to avoid all of that. Okay. Now the enemy is playing 2 cards. The mines explode bigger and minions get 1 movement speed. That is fine because we have Piercing Light, Bomb Drone, and we can use Minor Heal. Meaning we are pretty good at this point. We're going to keep the bombs until the end boss, if we can at all. That should be pretty interesting. We're going to add these here. Avoid that. There we go. Try to avoid that anyway. There we go. And we kill that one. Pick up these blue globes. These blue globes decide what kind of boons you get after a round. So we're going to show that in a second. So that's Arena 6. We go to the next arena, which is Arena 7, obviously. Gain an additional Mine Shower skill. I'm not sure what that means. Oh, Mine Shower. He has 2 mines. Oh, that is terrible, actually. But we're going to add another Cosmic Cleaver for a total increase of a bunch of damage. And you can press here and see stats, and you see I have an additional 105% of damage. Which I'm not going to complain about. That is pretty good. Yeah, these are dying really fast. Even with my AoE ability that doesn't do a ton of damage, these guys are dropping like flies. Ouch. And so am I, because I have very little health. That is a problem. There we go. So, this is the game's gameplay in a nutshell. Let's finish this boss fight off, and we can draw our own conclusions, and I'll show you some of the other things going on with the seasons. Okay, so I have an Shiny, which has... Oh, very nice. Very good, very good. Okay, So minus 10 damage to mine can turn into healing. That's pretty cool. Ability spawn 4 rats, counter minus 1 rat each upgrade card you play. So upgrade play 2 cards. I'm not, but that was only 1 upgrade though. So he's gonna get 3 rats here. We're gonna work on killing the rats. And each boss has a unique set of mechanics. This boss, for example, does a ton of damage with his beams,
as well as homing lasers which you have to shoot out of the sky.
and that's painful, to say the least. And I've taken a ton of damage. I shouldn't have. Damn, this is going bad for me, actually. I might die here and lose this battle. I died and lost the battle. Once you die, that is it. Your round ends. I've collected 31 points. It was fun to watch. That was it. Once you either die or finish a run, these battles are filled in. As you can see, this run takes me to 2 minor battles. That's the 2 gates I chose. Then a big battle. Then 2 minor battles. Then a big battle. Then 2 minor battles. Then a big battle. I have never gotten past the second big battle in this game mode. It is really difficult. The different thing is though, you can't change your deck once you start a game mode. So you unlock cards, you get stuff, etc. I didn't even gain any gold because I died at the first boss. So this was a very wasted run for me. What happens after you finish a battle? Either die or win. Well, you go to your fortune, you spin, spin, you unlock new cards, and you change up your deck to get whatever it was you were looking for. Maybe you'll get an additional card, like draw 2 cards. Maybe you need some more healing. You figure out what you did, what you failed in, and you add stuff to it. Obviously, in this run, my main mistake was getting hit by skill shots. That was maybe related to the movement speed reduction I get when I use the Squire of Light's abilities. But it goes also have been changed by adding more healing or adding some other cards to my deck that result in me being able to do stuff like that. If you don't feel like playing the programs that are available, you go to seasons. And we're going to go and try this season now. So this season has 6 hours left in it. This is the daily for the 28th. We're going to select our Squire of Light. And we're going to start the game. So, same again. We're facing Ratbo the Exterminator this time. We are Squire of Light and Brutus. And there is a Gotta Go Fast in play that collects points in gold, give you +3 movement speed briefly. So that's a bonus for me, which means enemies are added. But there is a teamed deck Puffness, which is a deck only built of puffs. So your own deck does not count here. You only have puffs, which is going to be hard. So we're going to fight. Yeah, it doesn't even matter what I do here, does it? There you go. Same gameplay applies. The enemy plays a card. He has an ability. This one summons Gatling turrets. So we're going to add 2 puffs here. And the point of the puffs is, if they live, they give you a bonus next round. So you want to keep them alive during a round. So there we go. We're going to kill this fast. There. We had both puffs alive. We've got a bunch of points. Next round. He adds 4 range to his Gatling turrets. That is horrifying. Okay, so we're going to add a mana puff. Another mana puff. Wizard puff and a scarf. We're gonna add all of them. There we go. Ton of puffs. Aren't they cute? So we're gonna have to kill these Minotaurs. Minotaurs charge and they do a ton of damage. So we want to kill them as fast as we can, when we can. We also want to avoid these charging ghosts, basically. While we kill all of these. There we go. I think all our puffs survived, did they? Yeah, all our puffs survived. Very good. Very good. We're gonna get a bunch of bonuses for that next round. So you can see the gameplay, as I said, looks repetitive, but because this is a very different deck and I am themed around a very different game style, I'm even facing different abilities. It feels fresh. It feels challenging. It keeps it being interesting. You can see, this is one of those card carriers that gives you a bunch of gold when you kill him in the game. And this gold can then be used on the slot machine later on. There we go, that one's dead. Man, this is gonna hurt. See if we can get anything killed here. There you go. Oh man, I'm dying here, aren't I? Oh, there we go. So you only have to kill the guys with red health, not yellow health, because yellows are summons, and they will keep summoning every couple of seconds from these gates that are underground. So the game really combines a bunch of mechanics to make each arena run unique, and they've done a very good job of that. An amazingly good job of that. Now let's talk about gameplay longevity and how the game plans on surviving in the longer term. Because you can see the game is single player, and unlike their previous title that was multiplayer, they don't have a way to encourage people to play together in this manner. It's all solo, even if you are facing off against other players. Now, I've been defeated. Let's see how hard I am in the rankings. This is pretty horrible, so I'm pretty low in the rankings, I guess. I got a bunch of gold, and I'm rank 76 out of 106 people. Obviously, this is still a press build, so there's very few people playing. But my best score so far was 509 out of 3 tries for today. And then I can redo this again and again. So that's the game in a nutshell. You build the deck. You fight enemy AI in a different variety of arenas with different randomized modifiers. You change your deck accordingly once you figure out something new about a boss. And you redo it. It is challenging, it is interesting, and it is well put together. Now, one of the problems with Forced, or the original game, where this is a sort of derivative of, was that the gameplay ramped up in difficulty really hard and really fast. I feel this game does a better job of gradually increasing the difficulty curve. The Crucible took me about 15 tries to finish. I was learning the game, I was learning the mechanics, I didn't even know the end boss had a mechanic, so I was messing up completely there. I was learning the champions, I was trying out things. The Frontline I've now done, I think, 20 times or so. I've not finished it yet, but I've gotten to the second stage, and I've gotten progressively better at figuring out what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Obviously, I still mess up, like you just saw in the video, because I was talking and playing at the same time. Commentating is a problem. So, yeah, for Showdown, it's pretty damn great. How are they planning on making more money off this title? Microtransactions, DLC, whatever? I have no idea. The game is coming out at a price of $20 USD or your regional equivalent. And there is a discount at the start of the game's release, so you could get it up a little bit cheaper, but there is that. So let's get some more cards, shall we? Let's wrap this up with getting more cards. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, well, press the like button below. If you didn't like this video, well, there's a dislike button for exactly that purpose. And if you want to see more content on the channel like this and like other critical content, go ahead and press that subscribe button and we will deliver. And until then, I wish you a good day, and until next time, right here on Guy Logic.